There we go. Somebody said audio. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. There we go. One thing after another, I tell you. Listen, thank you for being here. Obviously, I've been experiencing some technical difficulties. I use Streamlabs OBS to do my live streaming, and it just, the moment I hit go live, it just went into some kind of spasm and then said, big error, and your chat is disabled. So I managed to jury rig something where I can see the YouTube feed, so I can see the chat stuff coming in. So I was actually, even though my audio was turned off, I was asking for people to get in the chat so I can make sure that I can see your comments in the chat as they come in. So yeah, anyway, you guys can see the title, the hidden arrogance in job postings you need to know about. This is a live Q&A. I'm here purely to answer your questions. So get in the chat, let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and I will do my best to help you out. Yeah, sorry for the weird kind of setup. Hopefully it looks okay from your end. Just everything went wrong on my end. But we're going to do this. You know what? Because it's Friday the 13th. TGIF, the 13th. So remember, because of the date, behave accordingly. You just never know. Anyway, let's get down to it. Until the questions start rolling in, I'm going to talk about the title. So talk about arrogance in terms of job postings. The obvious one are fake jobs, right? Hopefully people know what I'm talking about. It's a job posting. They're advertising for a job. They want you to apply for it. But it turns out there is no job. It's all some kind of fraudulent kind of thing to get your application for whatever reason. Either they're going to use your information or they're just gauging interest in something, right? There's all kinds of reasons why people do it. Sometimes it's just incompetence. Sometimes plans change. They post the job and then like 6 hours later they decide, oh, sorry, business is down and we can't hire anyone. It's there's all kinds of reasons for that. But in the actual postings themselves, I'm sure you can think of a number of like stupid things that they put in there, right? For a start, it's an entry-level position, but we need 5 years of experience, right? Tell me if you've heard that one before. There's all kinds of these things, right? Unrealistic must-have requirements, right? You expect it to be a genius, to have accomplished the earth and the sky, but yet we're going to pay you minimum wage, right? That kind of thing. So, it's just really annoying. They're expecting, I don't know what you call it, but they're expecting somebody to be like an absolute rock star, in everything, right? But they're not gonna pay you properly, and they're not gonna treat you with respect, that kind of thing. We're a family, it's the company is a family, right? A family of apparently of workaholics, right? Who don't respect each other and don't trust each other. Tell me if you've heard that one before, right? It's a family when they want something from you, but not when you want to reciprocate, right? You must be a self-starter, right? But there's no training. There's no training provided, right? You like that? It's always good. Now, that actually is following kind of a general trend. We're going from an economy or a world economy where people are more interested in training you to a situation where when they're hiring, they want turnkey employees. That means they want people that can they start and then they can instantly become productive, right? That's what we're going towards. Oh, by the way, okay, I can see the chat here. This is what I can see. I can see 5 entries. I can see people talking about audio. Over a Rainbow is here. Thanks for saying audio in the beginning there. That really was the thing that made me realize that my mic is off. Twinkle Star, hello to Twinkle Star. Hello to Kiwi Magician. Thanks to everybody who's here. I don't know how many people are here, But you guys are awesome. Thank you. Get in the chat. The whole point of this is I'm going to work off your questions. I'm just here to answer questions. I really don't have anything to say. I'm just filling air, talking about, the title, The Hidden Arrogance in Job Postings, right? That whole must be a self-starter thing. The competitive salary thing. You've seen that, right? The salary is competitive, which of course usually means that it's not competitive. Over Rainbow says, you're welcome. That's a modern thing, right? Modern in the sense that people have been doing it for 20 years, where they'll say, you're welcome, before you even said thank you, right? So I'm not saying you've done that, but that reminds me of that. It's like, I'm here to do my live stream. You're welcome, right? It's got that hint of arrogance to it, right? Okay. The expectation that you must love the job. Now, that's sometimes spelled out, right? And that's ridiculous. But a lot of times it's implied, right? You see, what they're looking for, especially recruiters, they're trained to look for this. They're looking for the candidate that, loves what they're doing, right? They want to be in that specific job. They're not just there to collect money. They're there to do that job because that job is their calling. It plays to their strengths. They're interested in it. They're passionate about it. That's what they're looking for. But as we know, there are certain jobs out there that if you actually felt that way about the job, there'd be something wrong with you. You know what I mean? You'd either be a psychopath or something else was just not connected right. Because if you've got a passion for doing that, holy smokes, something's wrong. Kiwi Magician says, I get an offer without training with the minimum salary. I never thought this was silly till you said it. Okay, well, listen, hey, if it doesn't strike you as silly, then it's probably not silly. Don't let me convince you something is silly when you don't feel it is, I'm talking about the stuff that people already feel is kind of weird, and it's all I'm saying is that you're not wrong in feeling that it's weird because it's totally weird. The stuff they put on some of these job postings, the things that they want you to do, they're contradictory, they're ridiculous, and a lot of times they're arrogant. I'll be the first to admit that. Twinkle Star says, I had 3 interviews in person this week. Glad all of them were nice to me. Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. Interviews are a two-way street. They have to like me. I have to like them. Yes. I would say that with an asterisk. Okay. You're absolutely right that, in your own mind, you have to want to work for these people because if you find them like totally off-putting, you find the job like boring as hell or you hate it like passionately, you find the person that you spoke to, the interviewer or interviewers, you found them like a bunch of candy ass jerks, sociopath types, disrespectful, rude, arrogant, entitled, like that's how they came across to you. I agree, those are major red flags, and the idea is that if they were to offer you a job, you're going to take all of that into account, and you can even turn down a job because if they made such a bad impression on you during the interview, you may do that, and that's not unheard of. You know what I mean? But what I would say is that don't conduct the interview with the interviewer. Like when you're the job seeker, you go down to an interview, a job interview, and they ask you questions stuff. Don't act in the interview like, oh, this is a two-way street, and like you have to impress me as much as I have to impress you. Don't conduct the interview like that because that will not go well for you. That'll backfire. Okay? You keep that internal, right? You make your own decisions, you think your own thoughts and do what makes sense for you. But if you're going to go down to the job interview, unfortunately, it is all about them. That's just the nature. They're calling the interview and you're showing up for it. It's not the other way around, right? So don't fall into that trap, because I've seen job seekers make that mistake where they go down to the job and they behave very arrogantly and very entitled, and they think of it as like a kind of two-way kind of thing, and it's not. They are interviewing you, you know? So just be aware of that, you know, and then go away after the interview and then decide, you know, like, I'm not dealing with these people again, you know, like, that's it. I don't care if they offer me that job. I'm not taking it because that was ridiculous. You know, but while you're there, you might as well do the best you can. You know, you've already showed up. You're sitting right in front of these people. You might as well give yourself the best chance to see if they'll give you an offer. And you never know. Maybe the offer will be for like an insane amount of money. You never know. You know, those types of things have happened too. So, you know, Tong says, here listening as well from Ireland. Well, thank you, Tong. That's great. Keep that shamrock in your hand. That's all I can say. And it's Friday the 13th. So, you know, that's why everything went haywire for me. And, you know, hopefully you guys are having a better day than I was when I tried to start the stream with no audio and no chat and nothing working and big warning fault messages like in red across the screens of my computer. Yeah, TGIF the 13th, right? After this, it's all uphill. So get in the chat. Let me know what's up with you guys. Have you seen annoying things in job postings? Have you seen annoying job postings? Is there something that's kind of confusing? You think something is a red flag, but you don't know? Let me know. Send in your questions. I'm here purely to answer questions. I don't have anything of my own to sort of spout off about. I'm just reacting to what you guys say. As always, while we're waiting for more questions, check out that course, right? My Get Hired course. That's all my advice in one place. If you are confused about what to do, if you don't know how to go about doing things, whether it's getting interviews or it's passing interviews or negotiating offers, check out that course. If you want to tap the hidden job market, that's where 80% of the jobs are. They are not posted. Okay, but you don't know how to go about doing that, or you're an introvert, you're a technically minded introvert type, but you don't know how to do it, check out that course. It's all in there, okay? I would encourage you to do that. Learn about networking, learn about hidden jobs. That will only help you in your career. Yes, so I'm just waiting for questions. I see there. Okay, so I can see there's 36 people here. Come on, guys, get in the chat and let me know what's on your mind. If you are a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to get in the chat and let it fly, shall we say? You know, let me know what's up. I'm going to change the brightness on my camera again. Maybe because I have an obsessive compulsive disorder where I've got to mess with this thing every time the cloud cover changes. I don't know. Okay. Still waiting for questions. Okay, Joshua is here. Hello to Joshua. Thank you for being here. Joshua said, is one's current unemployed situation a turnoff for recruiters or an ATS filter? Yes. Yes, it is. It's stupid, and it shouldn't be that way. But if you are going through recruiters, the answer is yes. Okay? Now, the reasoning is that recruiters are trained to think this way. See, recruiters, just so you know, they are not looking for the best candidate. That's not what recruiters do. They are not equipped to spot the best candidate. Usually, they are hiring for a job that they themselves know nothing about. So a recruiter who went to school, they got a certificate in HR, and that's studying like employment standards and labor laws and stuff like that. They're hiring for a job that's like an accountant job or an engineering job or a technician job or a customer service job, or, you know, like, what does the recruiter know about customer service? Nothing. What does the recruiter know about accounting? Nothing. What does the recruiter know about being a technician? Nothing, right? So they are not equipped to spot the best candidate, right? But what their role is they're there to spot the least risky candidate, the one with the higher likelihood of working out, okay? So, for example, if you are qualified, but you don't like doing that type of work, you're probably not going to work out in the long run. They will probably, you'll probably leave of your own accord if something better comes along. Or you've had jobs that pay twice as much as this in the past. You're probably not going to be happy in this role. You're going to regard this role as beneath you, and you're probably going to jump ship as soon as something better comes along, right? So those things would make you risky. If you've got a negative attitude, if you're like argumentative and you lose your temper in the job interview, that suggests you're probably not going to work out if they hired you, right? So that's what recruiters do. They look for these red flags, okay? That they can do. That's what, they're qualified to do as human beings. So if you are not currently employed, okay, the way recruiters think about that is they think like, okay, this person is not working. Nobody has hired this person right now. Now, why is that? It could be for a legitimate reason, or it could be that there's something wrong with them. Maybe they get fired from every job that they have. We don't know. Now, we can ask the candidate about that, and they can give an answer. And, it might be a seemingly reasonable answer, but do we know that that's true? Can we verify that? No, we can't. So because of that, we'll regard you as a higher risk employee. Okay? That's the reasoning behind how recruiters think about these things, okay? It's stupid, but it's true. Now, that sounds very bleak, doesn't it? Very negative. Here's the upside, okay? 80% of jobs are not posted. They're in what we call the hidden job market. You get those jobs by doing different things. You don't look for job postings and then respond with an application and go down to an interview. A lot of times you get those jobs via networking, by reaching out to an organization and saying, hey, I'm here, I can do this, right? If that goes to the right person and you know what to say, and they are hiring, they will, in all likelihood, want to talk to you. So you get those jobs by showing up and demonstrating how awesome you are, right? By talking to them, by showing how professional you are, how how easygoing you are, how much you click as a person, how much you know your stuff, So it's not about talking about how awesome you are. It's about showing how awesome you are. And that's how people get jobs that are not posted, of which most jobs are not posted. That's how people change careers. That's how people come back from like work gaps of any length, right? Because it doesn't matter, what's on your resume in the sense. In another sense, they can see your value. If you're talking not to a recruiter, but to a hiring manager, someone who's going to be your boss, okay, they can tell if you know your stuff or not, and they get an idea if they want to work with you or not, and they can see your qualities demonstrated, right? So it's a little bit different. So there's always that. That's the way that most people get jobs, and work gaps and stuff don't matter, right? So you could try it in, applying for posted jobs, but there's this whole universe of opportunities out there that you can get, okay? And they don't give a rat's ass about work gaps as long as you know your stuff, right? And you can deliver value. Okay, where were we here with this? Joshua says, is one's current unemployed situation a turn off for recruiters or ATS filter? Yes. So that's what we talked about. Yeah, in theory it is. Like, generally speaking, it is. Doesn't mean that you can't put yourself up for jobs. There are some ways around it. The work gap thing, I'll just say one final thing about it, and that is that if you have a work gap, go out now and register for some free classes somewhere on the internet. Then position it as not that, I'm between jobs, I'm out of work. Position it as, oh, I intentionally went back to school to update my skills, to learn new things. And now that I have done that, I'm ready to rejoin the workforce, right? So it's more of a calculated, planned kind of thing, as opposed to the whole like, oh, I've been I've lost my job and I'm not working right now and I'm doing nothing, right? That's how you should position it. That's what usually will give you the best chance. Okay, Motivation TV says, hello, sir. I'm Farman from Pakistan. What question is which things is more important for job to get easily job? Okay, well, the most important thing if you are doing an interview with someone, either a formal job interview or you're just showing up and talking to them, right, is that you're likable. That's the most important thing. If you're off-putting, if, like you could be really qualified to do the job, but if it's just not clicking between you and especially the hiring manager, okay? Like the hiring manager is the boss. So if you got the job, the hiring manager would be your boss, right? That's who the hiring manager is, right? So the hiring manager has to like you, because if they were to hire you, you'd be working with them and interacting with each other all day long, every day, right? They're not going to hire someone that they really, really don't get along with, or they can't really talk to. There's communication issues, or, the hiring manager says something and the employee gets offended all the time, or the employee says something and the hiring manager gets offended, all the time, right? So being likable is the single most important thing in person, okay? You can be not that qualified. You could be like the bare minimum qualifications, but if they like you, they'll pick you over other people, right? That's the idea. Kiwi Magician says, they often ask how much experience you have with this specific software for entry-level jobs. Should I put my experience of using this specific software like Excel in school? Well, listen, you don't want to lie outright, okay? What I would do is if you're applying for a job and they give you an interview, I would go and, as much as you can, familiarize yourself with the software before the interview. Then you can go down there and say, yeah, I know my way around it. I don't consider it an issue to use that software. I know how it all works. So, you know what I mean? But what you want to do in general is when you apply for a job, you're going to want to customize your resume. And if you send in a cover letter or something, whatever they ask for, you're going to have to tailor that too. It's not about what you have in the sense that you have this master resume that sums you up perfectly. You just said that. You're going to customize your resume to every job. If you do this, you will get a lot more interviews, okay? If you don't do this, it's going to be very hard to get interviews in this day and age. Okay, things have changed in the last 5 years. You kind of really need to do this now, right? So if they're saying we need experience in this software, okay, and that's a must, like that's one of their number one requirements that's listed first in the job posting where it says requirements, that's like listed first or second. You're going to need to have that on your resume, and it's going to be pretty prominent too. Okay, so, I suppose you could go out and say, I'm familiar with it on your resume, but then if they call you back, you then go do a crash course in that software and show up at the interview. Just so it's not a lie, You know what I mean? But I wouldn't just put things because they ask for it. Like that's dishonest. If you don't have it, don't say that you have it. You can exaggerate, you can sort of emphasize things, but I don't recommend anybody lies outright, in their application. Tong says, this week I got an email from a company telling me they didn't think I was suitable for a job. You got to love those, right? What I applied, but they think maybe another position would suit me better. Should I remake my CV to suit? You can if you want. I don't want to say no, it's a waste of time, but it doesn't look good. You see, these are people that have already rejected you, right? If what they're saying is that you should go to them again for a different job. I mean, listen, if you have the time and you're not pursuing any other more promising leads, there's no harm in it, but it's already one strike against them. They saw you, they passed on you. You know what I mean? They're not going to be in your court. Like, at least that's all you know about them. So it's not a stupid idea. You know, you could, if it's something really desirable that you want to do, or you really like their company or something, sure, you know. Tong says, that role better, or just tell them, yes, I would like to be considered for that role. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's entirely up to you whether you do it or not. It's not, if you don't do it, it's not stupid, because these people have already rejected you once. What makes you think they're going to change their mind the second time around, right? You know, but if it's a job you want, hey, you never know. You could get it. So it's not a dumb idea to do it. It's just, it also depends on what else you're pursuing, right? You see, I would learn about, you know, the hidden job market and how to network yourself before I did stuff like this. That's what I would recommend to people, you know. But a lot of young people especially they're just stuck in this bubble where they're intimidated by that. They don't think it's something to do, so they don't want to do that. I would encourage you to really do it. That's the thing that is going to like open so many doors for you. But, you know, if you don't want to do that and you limit yourself to the posted job market, if that's what you're doing, then you could do this. It's not the dumbest thing ever. Kiwi Magician says, they filter people based on experience. I'm thinking about saying I have this number of experiences to not get filtered. Well, that's up to you. If you want to lie outright and say you have something when you don't, that's up to you. Over Rainbow says, I interviewed yesterday for a job that required experience. However, during the interview, they said, we don't hire based on experience. It's mind-blowing. Yeah, that's called stupidity, actually. That's called incompetence, and there's a lot of it in recruitment and selection. There are some damn amazing recruiters out there, but you know what? I believe they're in the minority. I think the majority of recruiters are not amazing. They are incompetent. They're overworked. The recruiter job, it's an entry-level job, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. You know, so, you know what I mean? It shows sometimes, right? You know, like that's kind of a classic thing. They put something on a job posting saying, this is what we're looking for. And then you go down to the interview and they tell you verbally, oh, we're not looking for that. It's like, well, which is it? You know, I mean, get your shit together. You know what I mean? Tell me if you've ever been in that situation. That's actually quite common. Oh, look, Kiwi Magician says, I've also encountered that. Yes, exactly. Kiwi Magician, blah, 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 if you see what I'm saying. Kiwi Magician says, pretty weird. They put all these requirements when only the requirement is Excel. Yeah, listen, usually as a general rule, okay, if they list multiple requirements, usually the first things that they mention are actual requirements and the rest of them are nice to haves. Right? So they're not hard requirements, like it's a showstopper if you don't have it. That's common. And they say that they're requirements because they're trying to get the perfect candidate that has everything, right? Now, you can apply for a job. You can have some of the requirements, but not others, and still be called in for an interview. And just so you know, if you are called in for an interview, that is a signal that according to them, you are perfectly qualified to do the job on paper. Like that's what it looks like, right? Assuming, you know, you haven't exaggerated or lied, you are qualified to do the job according to them, right? Assuming you haven't falsified your resume or something. So they still want to talk to you, maybe ask you a couple of questions just to verify, do some background checks, check references, that kind of stuff. But if what you said is the truth, then it appears that you are fully qualified according to them. So when you go down to the job interviews are not about how qualified you are, because everyone called for an interview, according to them, is qualified. What would be the point of calling someone down to a job interview that can't do the job because they're just not qualified? What would be the point of that? Even if you like the person, you think they're like amazing, you still can't hire them because they're not qualified. They couldn't do the job, right? So that's the deal. So if you're called for an interview, that's a signal that you are qualified according to them, assuming, of course, everything you said is accurate. Right? Onion says, how do I address dropping out of my master's on my CV and or during an interview? Well, you could put, like, as long as it's clear on your resume that you haven't completed your master's, but you want to say, now, the way I've always seen this done is somebody will write, they won't say I have a master's, they'll say I'm a master's candidate, right? That word candidate. That means that you're studying it, but you haven't completed it, right? Now, I understand what you're saying. You're not studying it. You studied it and then you dropped out, okay? Now, you could still say candidate if it's possible that you could always go back and resume your studies. You know what I mean? So I would look into that. I would just check the definition of that word and how it's taken in recruitment circles. But I believe that if that's how you wrote it on your resume, that's fine, because it allows you to say, I've done some work towards this, but also you're saying, I don't have that qualification yet. It's incomplete. You know, so it's all out in the open. So that's that magic word, candidate. You know, I'm a master's of marine biology candidate, right? Ishmael or Ismail says, I have a BSBA, I don't know what that is, and work as a data integration administrator in RPA. No idea what that is. I'd like to get into the tech software development side of things. I'm thinking of completing free comprehensive course at work. Great. Do you recommend this? I can't say. I mean, like, in order to know if that's the right thing for you, I'd have to know your situation. I'd have to know your goals. You know, I'd have to know your history. I mean, I can't say. If it's right for you, if it's what you want to do, then you do it. One thing you can do to determine, you know, is this something I need to get a certain job? Okay. This is what you do. You go on LinkedIn. Okay. And I've said this many times before. You go on LinkedIn and you do a people search. Okay. Now, you may need the premium version of LinkedIn to do this. If you do need the premium version, sign up for like the free month of premium LinkedIn, right? You can sign up for it and then cancel before the end of the month. Then you don't have to pay anything, but you get the premium. Go on LinkedIn, do a people search, and then limit it to your hometown, okay? Or your region where you're working. And then type in the search box the title of the job you're wanting, okay? So if you want to be in that job and you're wondering, like, do I need to take this training to be in that job? Okay. Type in that job and then hit search. Now, what it's going to do, it's a people search. So the results are going to be individuals, right? And they're going to be people that they're either working in that role, like that's the job they have, or they were previously in that role. Okay. And then of all the results you get, all these people, look at their profiles and see what they have, because you're essentially seeing their resume. Like, do they have that software? Do they have similar types of training? How did they work their way up into that role? Did they get it out of school, like with education? Did they get it with being in a certain other role for 10 years first? Like what was their career track? Now, if you look through all these people, you can start to see trends. And if everybody has that software training, that suggests that you probably need it too if you want to be in that role, right? If nobody has like any software training, that suggests that you don't need software training to be in that role. You understand? So that's how you can sort of test like what people have in the real world in different positions, at different companies, in different locations. You can do the opposite too. You can do a search for that training. So if it's like a qualification, like a certificate in something or a degree in something or whatever, do a search for that and then look at, like, it's a people search. So you're looking at the individuals that training appears on their profile, right? what jobs are those people in? Are they all pumping gas and serving coffee, or are they all CEOs of publicly traded firms or something? You know what I mean? Like, it'll tell you kind of how useful that training is. It'll suggest how useful it is, if you do that, right? And how widespread it is. Is it a recognized thing that everybody has, or is it like a thing that like virtually nobody has? Okay, so these are things this is information you can get, okay, yourself by using LinkedIn to look this stuff up. T says, do you think the recruiter looks at your old company salary and dismiss you based on it? Only if you let them. Yeah. Like, look, okay, here's kind of how it works in a nutshell. Recruiters are kind of like you when you go to the store, okay? You want to buy a product, right? Like, let's say you liked, the example I've used last time was Heinz baked beans. You liked baked beans, so you want to go buy it at the store, right? And you know that it's worth buying because it's good. But if one store sells it for $20 or whatever currency, rupees, another store sells it for $10, rupees, you would rather get it for 10 than for 20, right? So, that's why you care about, how much you're going to pay the employee. You want to pay them less, okay? Because you're getting like your can of baked beans for less money. That's a good thing, right? On a personal level, that recruiter will be praised as a genius if they can get a highly talented employee that's motivated and it lasts for less money, right? Now, one of the ways they can do that is they can look at, if they had full, complete knowledge about you, they'd see that your last job, you made only a little bit of money, right? So and you stayed there for a long time. So they can conclude that you would be happy with a little bit of money, right? You're not going to demand a lot of money because you're used to it. You'd be happy with a little bit of money. You've shown that in the past, right? So if they have that information, that's the conclusion they're going to come to, right? Now, the thing is, depending on the situation, you're not going to want to disclose that, right? You don't want to tell them every single thing about you. It's like playing poker and showing everybody your cards. They can easily manipulate you and get the better deal, right? They win and you lose. You know what I mean? If you hide your cards, then you have a chance of winning out on this deal and having them pay you more money, right? So what a common thing is, and this varies by country, but a common thing is to say, like, listen, my current employer doesn't know that I'm looking for a job, and I don't want them to learn that, because if they do, they're not going to take it well. So for that reason, I can't give you my current employer as a reference. You can't contact them, and you don't tell them the name of your manager. You don't give them your manager's or your boss's phone number or contact information. You know what I mean? And if they ask for it, you say, no, sorry, unfortunately, I can't give that out because you can't contact this person. I don't want them to know that I'm looking for another job. They might fire me for all I know. I'm sure you understand. Right? So that's how that stuff works. Sorry, I'm just riding the brightness of my camera here. Okay, does that make sense? Ismail says, smart, thank you. And you pronounced my name correctly, which no one ever does. Okay, good. Well, I pronounced it 2 different ways. So hopefully one of those ways was the correct one. So that's good. Mr. Santiago. That's good. Good stuff. Great questions, everyone. Thank you for asking questions. You guys are awesome. We've reached the end of the chat, so get in the chat. Send me some questions. I'm here just answering questions. That's all I'm here to do. While I'm waiting for the questions, check out that course. If you are looking to get hired and you don't know what to do, you don't know what you can do, check that out. I cover everything, basically. It's all my knowledge all in one place, all laid out with templates and processes and everything. So check out that course, my Get Hired course. There is a link in the description box below. And while you're here, check out some of my other channels too. If you just can't get enough of me talking, check out these things right here, the Company's Expert 2 for job seekers, or the Company's Expert 3 for business types, entrepreneurs, managers, that kind of thing. I put a lot of extra stuff there, so you can check those out. If you feel so inclined, go subscribe to those. While we are waiting for more questions, also check this out. If you are looking to get promoted or you are looking to climb the ladder, that's where I put all the communication skills that I had to learn between going from a supervisor all the way to a CEO. So I put all of that stuff, anything related to communication skills, all in that course. The course is called Write Like a Professional. It is about writing, but it's also about what to say, how to respond, that kind of thing, whether you're saying it or writing it or whatever, indicating it any other way. Links to these in the description box below this live stream. And I've also done videos that describe these courses so you can see exactly how it all works, what's in them, how it's all laid out. So that's all pretty open and transparent. As I say, get in the chat. Just here waiting for questions. We have 26 people here, so thank you for joining me today on this Friday the 13th. Thank God it's Friday the 13th. TGIF the 13th. That's all I can say. And just sheer dumb luck, I went to start my this live stream today, and just everything went haywire. My software gave me a big fault. It said that, your chat has been disabled. The sound was off, but yet it was connected. So I didn't understand what that is. So, but I can see your comments and questions in the chat feed if you put something there. Yeah, we were talking originally. I mean, the title is Hidden Arrogance in Job Postings You Need to Know About. So I'll just mention a couple of things there while we're waiting for questions to come in. Posting a job that doesn't actually exist yet. That's another thing that does occur, right? Or insisting on degrees or certifications that don't matter. That's another common one. It's like, I would not be surprised if we were headed to a point where, like, in order to get a job at a gas station, to be a gas station attendant, you got to pump gas, you got to, mop the floor, whatever, restock the shelves, whatever you do, you're going to need some kind of certification to do that. You know what I mean? They've been putting certifications on everything, and it's really annoying because there are some jobs that, like, taking a certificate course in that, it's like ridiculous. It's like a Mickey Mouse thing, Like what training do you need to, like, answer the phones? Either you can do it or you can't. And to train you on it, you could train someone on it in like one day, So it's just really silly when you've been in a line of work for a few years, and that's what you've been doing for years. But now they've come out with some kind of certification or training course, certificate course, to do that thing that you don't have because you've been working in it, right? You haven't been in school, you've been working. But to get your next job doing the same thing as the thing you've already done, now you need to show some kind of certification, right? This is where networking really helps, because if you know how to reach out to hiring managers and put yourself forward, and you go and you talk to the hiring manager, they can see that you're awesome and you know your stuff. You know what I mean? And they'll waive like any silly requirement for a certification or educational qualification. At least for Mickey Mouse stuff, they can do that because they see that you're awesome. The only reason they were looking to ask people for this little certification or certificate is just to try and filter the candidates, because they get so many candidates applying for posted jobs. It's an artificial way to filter it, and there are several of those. We can get into those in a bit. Joshua says, thanks, Bill, for the earlier question. You sometimes get ignored sending cold invitations on LinkedIn. So how does one navigate that in the regular job posting? Well, where do I start? You know what you get regularly ignored with? Sending out job applications. How often have you sent out a job application that they received it and said, no, we're not bringing you in for an interview, right? That does happen, right? That happens a lot. Does that mean that you shouldn't apply for jobs? Of course not, right? So sending out invitations, like whatever you're doing on LinkedIn, I don't fully understand what you're trying to do on LinkedIn. If you're sending invitations to people that you don't know or whatever, oh no, they could ignore you, therefore I shouldn't do it. Is that where you're going with this? Because that's incorrect. Most of these things, they're numbers games, just like job applications are a numbers game. You apply to 500 jobs. How many interviews did you get? 5? 1? 20? You're not going to get 500 interviews, I can tell you that much. It's a numbers game, so it's going to be a ratio, right? And then of the interviews that you went to, let's say you went to 10 interviews. How many job offers did you get? 1? 2? 3? You know what I mean? Like, it's another ratio, right? It's a numbers game. So when you're doing things like direct outreach on LinkedIn, if that's what you're talking about, I'm not sure if it is, it's another numbers game. The difference is that the ratios to do a direct outreach campaign on LinkedIn to employers is usually a lot better ratio than sending out job applications, right? So that's the thing I'll say. But you need to know what I'm talking about when I say a direct outreach campaign. Hopefully people are familiar with that. As in reducing the risk of being filtered out by ATS for being out of a job. Did I already do that one? As in reducing the risk of being filtered. Okay, let me read this again. Thanks, Bill, for the earlier question. You sometimes get ignored sending cold invitations on LinkedIn. So how do one navigate that in the regular job posting? I don't fully understand what you mean. Sorry, Joshua. If you could rephrase that, I'd appreciate it. As in reducing the risk of being filtered out by ATS for being out of a job. Okay, now, are you talking about you're connecting with recruiters on LinkedIn and they can see that you're not currently working and they would filter you out based on the fact that you're out of a job? Is that what you're saying? If you could clarify, I'd appreciate that. I'll be happy to answer. Over Rainbow says, if the interviewer has their hands under a table, should I have my hands below the table as well? Is that even a thing? I guess it depends on what you're doing with your hands under the table. If there's one hand that has a bunch of cash in it and it gives it to the other person's hand and then they come back and shake hands, that's one thing. Listen, I think what you're talking about is mirroring, where they tell you if the interviewer is sitting like this, then you should sit like this. If the interviewer scratches their head, you should like scratch your head too, like that kind of thing. I mean, within reason, right? If you want to know, that's kind of what they tell. I think they tell that to beginners when beginners have questions about body language and posture and things like this. Should I have my hands on the table? Should I have my hands below the table? It's not a stupid thing, but you don't have to obey it like it's this ironclad rule. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do it exactly, right? If they're sort of like really intense and they're leaning forward and you're just kind of just relaxing like this, it's like, yeah, there might be a bit of a disconnect there, but I wouldn't say it's super rigid to the degree that you're mentioned in your example there. Just don't put your hands down your pants or something like that, and it's probably a good idea. If you're wearing pants, always wear pants when you go to the interview, or suitable attire, right? If you're female, you might not wear pants, you might wear something else. If you're a dude, you might wear a kilt, you know. If you're not Scottish, wear a kilt. See what they say. You know, might spice things up a bit. Send me your questions. We've reached the end of the chat again. Like, I'm just here responding to questions. And I'm actually trying to respond seriously too. So, but we're getting some really good questions. So that's great. Thank you for the people who sent those in. There are 21 people here right now. So let me know. In the meantime, check out which hand is it? It's this hand. Check out that course. My Get Hired course. Very popular course. A lot of people have taken it. It's helped clarify a lot of things for a lot of people. That will help you to apply for jobs in the posted job market. But the way I think of it is that the real hidden gem there is its ability to teach you how to get jobs in the hidden job market. That's where it's at. Now, if you want to know what that looks like, I've got some free videos, okay? In the description box below, okay, I've linked a couple of videos of mine that you should check out. Okay, one is called Hidden Job Market. So if you've never heard of this thing, you don't know what it is, that's where 80% of the jobs are, okay? So you should check it out. There's so much potential there. It's also where all the good jobs are, by the way, if ever you're wondering. So there's a video I have called Hidden Job Market that's linked down there. There's also another video that's linked in the description box under this live stream called How Successful People Get Jobs. Go there, watch that video. It's a video of mine. It's on my YouTube channel, but it's linked below. It's called How Successful People Get Jobs. And that gives you a preview of what it's like for an introvert to go after jobs in the hidden job market and get them. That's what it looks like. Okay, so it'll hopefully give you some ideas. And if you want the full version with all the details of how you can do this, check out that course. Okay, also linked below in the description box. Okay, let's get back to the chat here. Over Rainbow says, I always dress for success, but I generally just fold my hands on the table. What's a good rule? I would say is that if you're in an office type situation, you're sitting at a table, maybe a conference table, something like that. Okay. You can have your hands below the table. It's not the end of the world as far as I'm concerned. You can have your hands on the table. That also is okay, but don't put your elbows on the table. So like you're not going to have your whole arm on the table including your elbows. It's just going to be your sort of forearms and your hands, right? Now, if you have a pad of paper or something, maybe a pen, take notes. They ask you a question. What's usually a good idea is to write, just a couple of words on the pad of paper. Like that's what they're asking you. So you can always refer to it and you won't ramble. You won't forget what the question is. You wrote it on the pad of paper. That gives your hands something to do. It looks professional. It's very, very useful. If you have reference materials, which I highly recommend in a job interview, you're going to have your resume, you're going to have the job posting. You might have other things there too. Have that on the table in front of you. And then if you're kind of holding a paper with your hand or something like that, your hands have something to do. As long as you don't have a smartphone or anything like that on the table. That is a red flag that sends all kinds of bad signals for various reasons. So don't have a smartphone on the table. Okay? But if your hands are on the table, that's fine. If you have these items, that gives your hands something to do. Okay, we've reached the end of the chat again. We're getting not that many questions today. Get in the chat, ask some questions. If I don't really get many more questions, I will wrap it up. But if you guys have stuff you want to ask, I'm here. So let's talk. Usually I go for about an hour and a half. It's only been an hour, so we're doing fine. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering about. What's something you're uncertain about when it comes to getting hired or careers? It's all good. Have you tried networking? Have you applied for hidden jobs? Let me know. The only, and subscribe to my other YouTube channels, as you can see on the screen right here somewhere. Companies Expert 2 and Companies Expert 3. 2 is for job seekers, 3 is for business type stuff. If you're into that, some people are, some people aren't. That's kind of my core competency that I talk about sometimes on this channel. But I mainly talk about careers and job search here. Alex says, hello, I'm in quite a situation. Okay, well, I'm intrigued, Alex. Tell me more. And I'll see if I can help you out. Yeah, you guys like my other camera here? I got two. I always forget to toggle between them. But yeah, let me know what's up with you. Get in the chat and we can talk. Alex says, I need to take 5 days off in August, and it seems that it's very hard to take other than taking with pro-human consultant and the line leader. Okay. Line leader insists he can't give me 5 days off. Okay. I don't really understand. So why do you need to take 5 days off in August? Is that because they're not paying you for 5 days or something like that? Or you have like mandatory vacation or something like that? Okay, well, listen. What's best in those type of situations is say, look, this is not coming from me. This is coming from X. Like it's coming from the company, or it's coming from some other individual that told me this, right? To talk with, what is a pro-human consultant? I mean, for a vacation program from last year. Okay. Okay, well, listen, if you're just following company rules, what's useful is to find out where the rule is, right? Now, presumably, they don't want to pay you for those days, so they're saying you have to take them off. That's a rule somewhere, right? So you could produce the rule. Say like, look, according to this rule here in this book of company rules, on this page, this paragraph, you know, it says this. I'm just going by this. They won't pay me. They told me I have to take the days off, right? So I have to take the days off. Now, I'm just following this. So, you know, you present that to your line manager, right? Now, if your line manager disagrees and says, no, that's not how it works, I need you to work, or something like that, you say, okay, well, then there's obviously a disagreement here. You need to then escalate it to whoever is above your line manager, right? And say, look, I have, or work agency, whatever, I have, you know, this rule saying this, and they're following this rule because they're not paying me. They've told me I have to do this. But then I have the line manager insisting I have to do this. So what's the answer? Where do we go from here? Right? That's how you handle these things, right? You first go to your line leader, or whatever you call them, and give them a chance to address it, right? And if they can't address it, if they can't resolve it, then you escalate it. You go up one level to the line leader's boss, whoever that is, or your boss, like your second level boss, right? But you need to go with like the rule that you've been told, right? So either you'll have the rule in a book spelled out, or you'll be able to say, well, this person in HR said to me on this date that I'm not being paid, I will not be paid for these days, I have to take them off. Okay, that's who said, right? So this is not coming from me. This is coming from the line leader and from this other person Where do we go from here? They're contradicting each other. So what's to be done, right? Okay, so that's how you handle it, Alex. Alex says, I work for a tech auto company via pro-human work agency, okay? Line leader insists he can't cause of a few people and cause of experienced production operators that took vacation before me. Oh, well, rules are rules. Like, this is the thing. They need to resolve it amongst themselves. It's not your fault. You can't please two masters at once if they're contradicting each other, right? So that's how you present it, right? And if that person can't resolve it, then you need to escalate it to one level above them, right? But you need to give each person an opportunity to handle it on the way up, right? Okay? And sometimes that's what does it. Like, that's usually how it's done, right? Okay, if this person can't handle it, you don't know what the priorities are, what takes precedent. Does the HR's policy on payment take precedent over the line leader's operational needs for their labor force or whatever? Presumably it does, but you have to go up to get that directive, right? Flank Sinatra. Hey, I know you. I remember your name. Says, hello, I'm working as a technical IT support agent, and I would like to find a better paid similar job. I managed to get to a few interviews. The pay was better, but all positions were very tiring, nonstop work, hard to achieve daily targets. I declined all offers. Ridiculous micromanaging and high workloads. Well, okay, high workloads I can see because, like, listen, all things being equal, as you get more and more money and you climb the ladder, yeah, you're going to see that. You're going to see more work. You're going to see more responsibility. You're going to see more decision making, right? So that's. But micromanaging, that's not something that comes with any territory. That's just a bad manager that doesn't trust their employees, right? Or a bad situation where, for whatever reason, the manager feels they can't trust their employees. This moved on me here. Okay, so this, so that makes sense. So what's the question here? All positions. I managed to get a few interviews. The pay was better. Okay, so that's your story. Do you have a question? Like, how do you do something? Alex Rosca says, I am new only 1 month, but in August I would have 5.49 days, so it's my right to take it in August. Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, find the rule that says that. And then you escalate it. Like, you give, just to repeat myself, you give your line leader a chance to resolve it. If they say no, I'm contradicting this rule, right? So I need you to do what I say and not what the rule says. But you feel conflicted, then you need to escalate it to the line leader's boss, present the same thing. I've got this rule here, and I've got this person saying this, right? What do we do? I need your call. You need to make a call here. And then if they can't resolve it to your satisfaction, then you escalate it one level above and do the same thing, right? So it's just that simple, okay? It's not necessarily a fun process or an easy process, but that's how you do it. And that will give you a definite answer. And no one can blame you because you're just following the directives that came down from this boss or that boss or that boss. You know what I'm saying? If they have an issue with what you're doing, address it to that boss because I'm just following their instructions. And if they haven't informed you of that, you need to speak with them, right? So Flank Sinatra says, I can't find a better paid similar job, only where I am paid better but treated as a slave. Maybe I should watch the hidden job videos that you recommend. Yeah, like, listen, okay, the way it generally works. Now, I don't know if this is what you're butting up against, what like you're encountering, but a general principle is that, and I think you kind of know this already probably, is that, if you're wanting more and more money, you have to take on more and more responsibility, right? Generally speaking. So if you are wanting to stay in your current role, but you're wanting more and more money. Now, obviously, at a certain point, you're gonna hit a ceiling, right? Now, you may be eligible for a higher level role where they say, we will pay you more money, but it comes with strings attached. And those strings attached can take various different forms, right? The most obvious one is they can say you're at a higher level, you now have greater responsibilities, you have different duties. You now have to do your old job, plus you've got these other duties, right? Other times, the strings attached are you do the same job that you're doing now, but you're working for a less desirable employer, or you're working for a less desirable manager, or you're working in a less desirable environment, right? That's how you make more money. They have to pay people a premium to do your job in that situation because it's more unpleasant, right? If they paid people the same as you, everybody there would try and leave, and eventually they would succeed in leaving. So they have to pay people a premium to keep them there. It's your job, but it's more unpleasant because you've got a jackass manager, or you've got a different, more unpleasant environment, or it's just a company that doesn't treat people very well. You know what I mean? So those are the strings attached sometimes, right? You know, what you obviously want to do is you want to, if you want to make more money, then you want to get promoted, and you know, you want to take on, what's required for that is taking on more responsibilities. Usually it's some form of decision-making function, right? Which means like the beginning of management. When you start to do that, you're making higher level decisions about what you do. Maybe you're supervising other people. Maybe you're responsible for other things too, right? But that's usually required to keep making more money, right? You know, I mean, there's other things too, or you have to add more value. You have to be more productive. You have to produce not necessarily quantity of work, but better quality results, however they measure that. It could be less work, but much better results in a qualitative kind of way. You know what I mean? So you have to, you know, at a certain point, you will have to upgrade what you're doing to make more money. Now, the question is, how do you want to upgrade? Do you want to be more resilient than other people? Do you want to learn new skills and tack those on? You know, or do you want to be more productive, right? There's many different forms of it, right? But that's something you can't really escape from. Okay, let's see. Where did I leave off here? Alex Roscoe says, I've talked with the line leader first, so it's safe to escalate to pro-human consult. Look, I don't know the organizational structure of your job. I don't know who reports to whom in this situation, but you know, you would want to go to the line leader and present them and say, look, like, as long as they understand that, like, I'm following this rule, this does not come from me. I was told by this person that I have to do this, right? Okay, that's not coming from me. You understand that, right? Okay, so you're contradicting what they're saying, and both of you guys are like above my level, right? So there is a conflict here, you know, and we need to get this settled. Now, I'm told this, and you're telling me I have to work. I'm told I will not get paid, and I have to take vacation. You're telling me I have to work. So I'm going to, as long as you presented that to them in some way, shape, or form, right? They need to know that it's not coming from you. And there's no confusion about what the rule is. Because they think they're clarifying to you what the rule is, and they're not. If you're sure that this is a rule and you're pretty sure that it's clear, you need to communicate that to them. If you've already done that, then you need to escalate, right? Okay. Now, where did I leave off here? Okay, so back to Frank Sinatra. Maybe I should watch the hidden job market you recommended. Yeah, like that'll give you some other options. I mean, look, it's up to you. In order to progress your career, a lot of people, most people, they get jobs in the hidden job market, right? Because there's just so many of them, right? That's where all the jobs are. It's very hard to like do your entire career and climb the ladder and always go in the posted job markets. They don't post jobs above a certain level, usually. And when they do, it's a joke. Like when they post CEO jobs, like, we're looking for strangers to apply for a CEO job. It doesn't work like that. They're not going to hire those people. Would you hire a stranger and put them in charge of all your stuff, your home, your car, if you have one, your bank accounts, if you have them? Like, no, if you need someone to run that stuff for you, you get someone you trust. And that means you don't hire a stranger, That's why people hire through networking. It's about trust, right? Over a rainbow. Unless you have your own business, you are just a number. Absolutely. Yeah, you're an employee. You don't know. The assumption is you don't know how to make money yourself directly because you are achieving it through an intermediary. That's what your employer is. They're taking your value, they're turning it into money. They're turning your value into this much cash. They're keeping this much of it for themselves, and they're giving you the rest as pay, right? They're also taking on usually a lot of the risk, right? So they charge a premium for that, right? And they give you what's left over. So if you learn how to turn your entire value into cash, you make this much, you make more, right? The only problem is that you assume the risk. So, that's why I do a live stream every week on entrepreneurship, because this is what I try and encourage people to do. I learned this stuff many years ago. And, you learn how to turn your value into cash. So you don't need a job. You can just learn how to get money directly from customers. You can make money doing the thing you do. You know what I mean? So that's a very, very valuable thing to learn for many reasons. As a side effect, you also learn like what's important to a business and what isn't. These things help you in a regular traditional job too. So I mean, whichever way you slice it, it's a good thing to learn. Learning business is good. Business is the scientific study of how to make money. It's pretty good. It's pretty useful stuff to know. I mean, that's why I have things like this, right? I sell a course on that, right? Self-study. So you don't have to go back to school to learn this stuff. Okay, so people are talking amongst themselves here. Flank Sinatra says, my work is quality. Even higher level jobs that I applied for treated employees as slaves and with ridiculously high workloads. Yeah, well, you just need to get better jobs. Look in the hidden job market. Just do some of that stuff. Look, I already said during this live stream, I have two videos that are linked in the description box below this live stream. One is called Hidden Job Market. The other is called How Successful People Get Jobs. Watch those videos. They're free. I've got a playlist on my YouTube channel called How to Tap the Hidden Job Market. Check that out. And then learn all you can about this stuff. It's for your own best interest to learn this. I mean, if you want to learn it from me, I have it in that course. But one way or another, you should learn it. This will open up so many other options for you. The other thing about hidden jobs that are not posted publicly is that there's nowhere near the amount of competition. When you apply for a posted job these days, you're going in with hundreds of other candidates. When you're pursuing a hidden job, something that isn't posted, there might be 2 other candidates for a lot of those. I mean, the odds are pretty good. Will says, hi, Bill. I'm in the last stage of interviewing for an operations manager at a large 3PL company. I know what 3PL is. My next appointment is with senior leadership. How can I convey my desires for a strategic role in the future? Well, talk to me about your desires for a strategic role. Why do you want a strategic role? Do you have a background in plotting strategy for a business? What's your track record? Have you built like business units? Have you built teams that have gone out and like doubled the amount of revenue and stuff? Like, have you done that kind of stuff? Why are you interested in doing that? If you haven't done it before, why the interest in doing that? You know what I mean? You see, a lot of people want to make decisions, like big decisions in business. The problem is it's a double-edged sword. If you don't know what you're doing and you make all kinds of decisions, it can backfire. It can backfire very easily and often, right? That's what tends to make people that actually do these roles very, very conservative, because it's not, generally speaking, it's not as easy as it looks. And when you're at that level, you can get a lot of people laid off if you don't know what you're doing. So a lot of people, they've never done it. They see it. It looks easy to them, so they want to do it. But the reality is, when you're in that role, it's nowhere near easy, and it's very hard to do, just generally speaking. So this is probably how the senior leadership of the business is thinking. Now you're talking to those people. What are you going to say that can back up, like you're there for a job interview. The other thing is that you also don't want to convey the fact that you feel you should be a lot higher than you actually are, because that suggests you're not suited for that role, right? Does that make sense? They don't want to hire you for a job when you're thinking like, no, I really should be doing this, like way up here, I should be running everything, because you're not going to be happy in this role. And you're probably going to be bored with doing that role because it's maybe grunt work to you and not what you really want to be doing. So you got to be very careful how you position this. What I would do is I would say, like, listen, I'm interested in doing this. That's really what I want to do. I think it's a great step for me. I feel that I'm ready. I'm highly trainable. I've got an open mind, and I'm a very hard worker, blah, blah. And I'm also open to, seeing how things work at that level, and maybe get a view into maybe some strategic management decisions and things like this, because I'm wanting to learn about it, So that kind of conveys that, like, your material to be in the role, that you might be upwardly mobile, it might be a stepping stone for you to be up here, but you still want to be in this role. If you were in that role for 10 years, you wouldn't be upset. You know what I'm saying? So it's that balance of, like, I want to be in this role. I'm the perfect person for this role, but, I can see it go upward from there, possibly in the future, once I've learned enough, that kind of thing. That's kind of how I'd position it, if that makes sense. Okay, where did I leave off here? So that was Will. So hopefully that makes sense, Will. Alex is talking about the shift manager, get those 5 days off. Like I feel, okay, Alex, I feel like I've answered that a couple of times. So that's kind of what my recommendation is on that. So hopefully that makes sense. Joshua says, could you still apply to a job when you may be unfamiliar with a few of the job description but are qualified? Also, should you have all the skill on the job before you apply? The answer is yes and no. The first question, yes. You may be unfamiliar with a few of the job description, but are you qualified? Yes. But what I would do is I would do all you can to become familiar with what the job actually entails before you show up to the interview. Okay? Because what you want to do at the interviews, you want to say, yes, I'm qualified, I have this, I have that. But when they start talking to you about the job, you don't want to be like, oh, really? Is that what it's about? Like, I don't know what else you do in this job. You want to be in the know. You want to say, yeah, I understand that you do this. And those are similar to what I've done here. These duties here that you do as part of this job, I actually have those because I've done each of those duties before in this current or previous role. So you don't want to go there and be like, I don't know what you do in this role. That's not good. So bone up on the what the job actually is. Get on like Chat GPT or whatever. Go do some research on the internet. Find out like what is this role they're talking about? What's involved? What are the duties? What are the tasks? There's all kinds of ways you could find that out, and be prepared for the interview. So you don't go in there not knowing what the role involves. The second part of your question, like the other thing you asked, should you have the skill on the job before you apply? Well, yes, like the reality is that most jobs, the applicants that get called for interviews, they might not have every one of the requirements, but they have something close. They've got the major requirements, right? But the others, there might be labeled as requirements, but they're not actual requirements. They're nice to haves, right? So you could have those or you might not have those. And a lot of applicants, they won't have all of them, right? But the company will still interview them and talk to them. Okay, that's how that works. Okay, right on, Flank Sinatra. Way to go. Yeah, you should do that. Hopefully it's helpful for you. Hello to Alwyn. Doing this. Alex says in 2120 LL rotates. Okay, we're still talking about that. I think you guys are talking about that amongst yourselves, I think. Okay, Will says, sorry, third-party logistics. Okay, I do have a strong background in a different industry, automotive finance management. I've held similar roles. Ops manager with this company is similar to a director. Okay? Okay, no problem. Thank you for advice. You're welcome. Hopefully it's useful. John says, I was told I would receive the offer letter today. What should I ask for in the offer? First construction job, non-internship, assistant superintendent role. I have associates in construction management, OSHA 30. Okay, I mean, I'm not in the construction business, but you're saying like, what should you ask for in the offer? I mean, what do you want to ask for? I can't tell you what you should ask for in the offer. I haven't seen the offer. You don't have to ask for anything necessarily. You can just accept it and get the job. Anytime you try and negotiate or you try and change the offer, there's risk. Now, the risk is that they will say no, and then they'll rescind the offer, right? That does happen sometimes, but it doesn't necessarily mean you should shy away from asking things. Are you employed now? If you aren't employed now and you don't have anything else, any other leads or any other offers, what the smart thing to do is just to accept it, so you don't blow the offer and they don't rescind it, right? Just say, wow, this is awesome. Thank you. I'm very excited about this and I look forward to working together with you, and just sign it. If you have other offers or you have other leads, maybe other interviews lined up and things like this, and you're okay financially for the moment, then, you can afford to negotiate. You can play hardball. You can ask for anything you want, You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't give you details on your situation because I don't know it. So that's really up to you. Now, a starting point is to look at what's standard in that industry for that role, doing the kind of work you do, and the scale that you're at. That would be a starting point. It doesn't necessarily mean that you deserve it or that you should ask for it, because there's all kinds of variables, For example, people like to talk about market price, and they think that like, market price is this, so therefore I deserve this. And that's very flimsy, because for a start, it's very hard to determine market price accurately for most roles. Secondly, market price varies by region. So in your region, it'll have its own market price. Thirdly, it's making two assumptions. The first assumption is that you're an average employee. Okay, now you may not be. You may be below average or you may be above average, right? Okay, so just because the average employee makes this much doesn't necessarily mean you should make that much, or maybe you're worth more because you're an above average employee. Secondly, it's making the assumption that the company is an average employer that pays about, the middle of, the range, right? Some employers they pay above market, which means that they intentionally pay really well. They might be more demanding. They expect to only hire the best, but they're willing to pay for it. Other employers, they are below market. That means they pay less than other employers. And that's intentional. They accept the fact that that a few employees will leave to get better offers, but they don't care about that because they're making savings in their labor costs. So, it still works out for them. So there's a ton of assumptions here, right? So just because, something is standard doesn't mean that that's appropriate here. Or it might mean that, you deserve more than that. It's not only appropriate, it should be, you should exceed it in your case, right? So, you know what I mean? And it depends on their perspective because you have to get them to agree. So what's reality doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is how they see it if they're expecting to agree to it, right? So that's a lot of variables. So at the end of the day, it's almost a process where there isn't much logic involved. It depends more on, can you afford to negotiate or not? That's really what it depends on. And if you can, then you can push for whatever and you might get it. And then that becomes what you're worth, You know what I'm saying? So it really depends on that. It's not about logic or about what you deserve or about, what's standard. There's too many variables. It's just a matter of, can you afford to do this or is it too risky? So you need to determine that for yourself. Hopefully that makes sense. Will says, I currently have 4 years in logistics and supply chain management. I have 10 years in higher level finance services and planning. Now, listen, that kind of thing flies for recruiters, right? Recruiters care about years of experience. Hiring managers, generally speaking, really don't. They care to a small degree. Like, you need to have enough experience to know what you're doing. But just because someone has 10 years of experience, does that mean that they're not as productive as someone who has 20 years experience? Not necessarily, right? Hiring managers know this. It's not about like some logical argument why you should get paid more. It's about the value you deliver. Okay? That's generally how it works. There's all kinds of exceptions. There's all kinds of other things that win out, in specific situations, but that's the general rule. John says, currently employed in contact with 4 employers at the moment. I'm thinking of asking for a company truck. It's a possibility in the job posting. Okay. Well, if they mention it in the job posting, then first of all, everything I said still applies. Like if you can't afford to lose this, then you might want to think of just accepting it outright. Get the job. Then maybe see after the fact, after they've signed everything, maybe after your first day or two, then you push for a company truck. Something like that, right? It might be a little bit less risky, right? Okay. I mean, it seems reasonable, but the question is, anytime you try and negotiate, just so you know, there is a chance that they could say no and rescind the offer. Mark. So Alex is talking to Mark. I will talk with the shift manager if nothing. And Alex says, right on. Okay, if there's any more questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. It's been about an hour and a half. We've got some great questions. There's, I see 29 people here. Thank you for being here. If you're trying to get hired, check out that course. That's all my advice, all in one place. Right there, there's a link in the description. I've also done videos on what's in the course, how it works. So it's all transparent. All that stuff is linked below in the description box under this live stream. Check that out. A lot of people have been helped by that course. That covers not just how to get hired in the post-to-job market, where you're applying to job postings with resumes and cover letters, and then doing job interviews with recruiters. It also covers how to get hired in the hidden job market. That's where 80% of the jobs are. That's where all the good jobs are. And if you are like me, you are a technical introvert, then you probably don't enjoy going out and talking to people face to face. You don't like going to events, that kind of stuff. You don't like schmoozing with people. You don't like being in a crowd, like at a wine and cheese party or something. You've got like 100 people all talking amongst themselves. You don't know any of them. You're going to go and you're going to strike up a conversation with these people. You don't particularly enjoy that kind of thing, but you want to get hired. you don't like job fairs, you don't like having to go talk to people, this is geared towards introverts, technically minded introverts. This is how you can tap the hidden job market and uncover all kinds of opportunities. So I also cover that in that course. So if you're interested in learning that, check it out. It's called Get Hired. Link in the description box below. And if you are looking to get promoted or just be more effective at your job, check out this, my Write Like a Professional course. That's where I put all my communication skills that I learned between being a supervisor and being a CEO. So all the communication skills I put into that course. That'll teach you above average communication skills in an organization. So if you're interested in learning that, once again, link in the description box below under this live stream. And I've also done a video, like an FAQ video on that course too. So you can see how it all works and what you get before you pull the trigger. Alwyn says, missed my question. Okay, let's go back. Alwyn. See, Alwyn, you're talking to Joshua here. I did the same thing. Is that what you're is that the question? Like you addressed it to Joshua. Yeah, I don't see any other thing from you recently, so it must be that. Okay, so let's look at this. Joshua, a game dough. First question. My answer for the question, why do you choose us? I'm looking for growth, but for skills, I say I did the same thing my previous job. Isn't this a bad position? I don't fully understand that, but are you asking, like, how do you answer that job interview question? Why did you choose us? Right? That's like saying, why do you want to work here? Right? The answer is, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that you're looking for someone who has, and then you go down the requirements. You're looking for someone who has this education, this experience, these skills, right? And I have that education, I have that experience, and I have those skills. So it seems like a perfect match from what I'm looking for. That's why I chose you, or whatever the question was. Yeah. Because it seems to be a really good fit. That's the answer to that. So hopefully that was the question. I'm looking for growth. The skills, I said the same thing. Previous job, isn't that a bad position? I wouldn't phrase it like that. I mean, it's all about what these people want to hear. They want to hear that you're excited about working for them. They want to hear that you're fully qualified. You've got everything that they're looking for. They want to hear that you really want to work there. That's what they want to hear. So this is what you're giving them, right? I mean, that's what the person on the other side of the table is looking for. They want you to be qualified. They want to hear that you're qualified. They also want to hear that, you are excited to work there, that you like doing that type of work. That type of work is your calling. It's a fit. If you were in this job, you would be happy. You would be playing to your strengths. All your previous skills, experience, education, and it all combines to make you very effective at doing this job. They want to hear that, there's no red flags that suggest that you would be unhappy, that you would leave, you would be dissatisfied in any way. You know what I mean? Like that's really what job interviews are about. They're about looking for red flags. That's a huge part of job interviews. Anything that might suggest that if they did hire you, you wouldn't work out. That's what job interviews with recruiters especially are all about, right? And if they see anything in your attitude or your communication skills or your professionalism or your ambition, if they can spot any red flags with that stuff, like for example, you could be perfectly qualified, all your experience, skills, education is all perfect. You're easy to deal with. You're very professional. You're dressed properly. You're groomed properly. You can speak very well. But then you say like you want to be the CEO. You talk about how you'd make a great CEO. That negates everything. Because it's like, well, if we hire you, you're not going to be happy in this job. You're either going to be frustrated that you're not being promoted, or you're going to leave when you can get a job like that somewhere else. You're not going to be happy here, right? So that's what they want to hear. And this is what you've got to give them. And if you don't give them this, they'll just pass on you. It's just that simple. They've decided we're looking for a certain person. Are you that person? And if you're not, they pass. If you are that person, then we're interested, It's a pretty simple process, right? It's not about you. It's all about them. They're the ones that are interviewing. They have a need. They want to fill it with a person that is kind of like this. Are you that person? Right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I want to thank everyone that's here. There are 27 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Once again, TGIF the 13th. It's Friday the 13th, so watch yourself. This has been an interesting stream for me. It started with like the worst technical kerfuffle that I think I've almost ever had on a live stream before. Close. It's close. I've been doing this for a while, so I have been cut off, and stuff like that. But aside from that, this has been the worst technical kerfuffle at the beginning of the stream. So it was interesting, and it happened on Friday the 13th. So there you go. If you want to learn what to do to get a job, if you're kind of confused, you're having issues, it's going slowly, it's very discouraging, check out some of the stuff that I've offered to offer. I'm not a career consultant. I don't offer coaching. This is kind of like I do this part-time. My day job is I consult with businesses and stuff like that. So I don't offer consulting, but I do have courses. So check out this. This would be the main course for most people here, I imagine. It shows you how to get hired in the posted job market, how to get hired in the hidden job market. And I also have this to improve your communication skills, make you better at your job, make it easier for you to get promoted and climb the ladder, okay, if that's what you're wanting to do. And as a more exotic thing for people here, if you want to learn business, check out that. Business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's always a very useful thing to know. And my course is entirely self-study. And the beautiful thing is that you can fit it into your schedule. And you can go as deep or as shallow as you want. If you just want a very brief overview of business and, just a cursory sort of high-level summary of how everything works, you can have that with that course. Or if you wanted to really go in depth, you can take it to its logical conclusion, in which case you could learn everything that you would learn in a brick and mortar MBA, a 2-year program, because you're using the same source material as it. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I talk about business in 2 live streams every week. One on Mondays about entrepreneurship and one on Fridays about private equity. So if you're interested in that side of things, I also talk about that stuff. Check out that course. But for most people, I think this is the one you'll probably want. Links in the description box below this live stream for the course and for a video that explains the course, if that's useful. Okay? A lot of people have been helped by those. Thanks very much. I will be back on Monday with more live streams. You guys are awesome. Special thanks to Flank Sinatra, to Alwyn, to Alex, to John, to everyone who participated. You guys rock. Always remember, you're awesome. Don't let these people make you convince you that you don't have value or that you're no good. You have a ton of potential. You're very hireable, very valuable, and you're also engaged in self-improvement. So that's just going to put it over the top. Thanks very much. Have a good weekend. I'll see you soon. Take care.